Right, guys, welcome back. This is question 7 in the 2018 paper 1, and it is describe the cognitive interview for 6 marks. Now, as I'm sure you know, that there are 4 elements to the cognitive interview. You've got reinstate the context, report everything, change the order, and change the perspective. You also have the enhanced cognitive interview as well that you could talk about if you want to. Something to bear in mind with this question is that you don't have to necessarily talk about all of those different elements of the cognitive interview. You could just pick out a couple, explain what they are, and explain why they work. Okay, so for me, I think the best way to deal with this question is to split it into 3 sections. I'm going to do a section on what the cognitive interview actually is, then I'm going to pick 2 specific techniques. I'm going to explain what those techniques are, and I'm going to explain how those techniques improve eyewitness testimony. Okay, so I'm roughly working with 2 marks per section, thereabouts. Okay, but obviously this being a 6 marker, this is a banded answer. So if you have a look at the mark scheme, which is on your screen now, you will see that there's no mention of giving a particular mark for a particular thing, but having in your head roughly 2 marks per section is going to work. Okay, so let's have a look at the model answer. So I have color-coded my 3 sections. So I've got my first couple of lines, which is an introduction, which is what the cognitive interview actually is. That's in blue. It's a collection of techniques based on cognitive psychology that are designed to improve the accuracy of eyewitness testimony. I'm then moving on to my first technique, which is reinstate the context. I've named it. I'm then describing what it is, which is mentally recreating the environment and the emotions experienced at the time of the event. And then I finish that off by explaining that it is designed to reduce the impact of context-dependent forgetting by providing internal and external cues that were present during the encoding of the memory. My final little section then is the bit in pink. I'm now going to talk about change the order. And again, it follows the same sort of logic as with the last one. What is it? And then why does it improve eyewitness testimony? So it reduces the impact of schema, which can lead to distortions in memory by filling gaps with expectations. Okay, the reason I've chosen change the order and reinstate the context is because one of those looks at context-dependent forgetting, and one of them looks at the impact of schema. You could obviously have chosen other ones. You've got recall everything and you've got change the perspective. The one thing that I would avoid doing if you're going to follow this sort of structure is choosing 2 techniques that are based on the same theory. So don't do reinstate the context and recall everything, because they both focus on retrieval failure. Equally, don't do change the order and change the perspective, because again, they are both focusing on the impact of schema. Okay, obviously you can just talk about all 4 of these techniques if you want to instead. That's another way of doing it, but please be aware that it is very clear on the mark scheme. If you simply list the aspects of the cognitive interview, you're not going to get above 2 out of 6. Okay, so you do have to give some detail and describe and explain what is going on here. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Thanks very much for watching.